Open Your Eyes. We are at our last segment, and joining us for the conversation is Special Education Coordinator at the Ministry of Education, Culture, Science, and Technology, Ms. Christy Almeida. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
And we were currently talking about it is Disabilities Week.
Disability Awareness Week.
Disability Awareness Week. So the theme is
creating our new dawn, celebrating. Sorry, because you screwed me up. Okay, celebrating our new dawn, creating spaces in all places.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Okay, and how I know that there is not just special education.
No, this is a collaborative effort. Actually, this week, 9 different organizations have activities going on. The committee itself is about 15 different organizations that work with persons with disabilities.
Okay.
And just to point out for the theme, it's the Celebrating Our New Dawn is because the disability bill will be signed into law tomorrow, December 3rd, International Day for Persons with Disabilities.
Finally.
Yes, so that's what we're celebrating and how we can create spaces. So yeah, there are a lot of different organizations, Autism Belize, BAPTA, Belize Assembly for Persons with Diverse Abilities, Camp Sekanza, Ministry of Human Development, Families and Indigenous Peoples Affairs, of course, because of the law, Ministry of Education, Culture, Science, and Technology, Special Olympics Belize, the Inspiration Center, the Association for Persons who are deaf, and I'm missing one, and UNICEF. And UNICEF. So those are the 9 organizations that have events that started yesterday with the church service and will go through till Saturday.
Okay. Let's talk, because you're also representing Autism Belize.
Yes.
Let's talk about some of the activities that you are all putting out for this week as well.
For us, we've launched a door competition. So we're asking schools, the classes, to decorate their doors, hopefully incorporating the theme. They'll send us their photos and we will have a raffle announcing the prizes for winners across the country, and that's for primary and secondary. Preschool, if you guys want to do it too, that's fabulous. We'll have prizes for them, and then we have an FAQ session on Tuesday night. So I have a panel of 4 specialists, a behavior therapist, a speech therapist, an occupational therapist, and a special ed professional who is just there to answer questions. So parents can register through Autism Belize and log in Tuesday night at 6 o'clock, and we are just there to simply answer questions. It's not a training, it's just to try and help those who are having questions and concerns and everything. So that's what we are doing there.
How important is it for us to have this conversation where we're taking into view and context persons living with disabilities and how society embraces these population?
It's extremely important, and every year we do this week and we do fabulous activities, and I still feel every year that we kind of fail because we end up preaching to the choir. We end up talking to people and parents who have kids with disabilities. We do stuff for our kids in the special classrooms, like Friday's all week is a torch run for Special Olympics, and then at the end there's a big Special Olympics games, but we don't get enough participation from the general public. And honestly, that's who we need to target. With this new bill, which will become law, businesses are going to have 12 months to become accessible. Are you all accessible? So that's something to think about. We have to talk about
perhaps put a ramp in place.
A ramp, an elevator, accessible bathrooms. These are things. Companies now, there can be benefits for those who hire persons with disabilities. We're trying to get more inclusion there. The Ministry of Education has to take seriously what supports is provided in all classrooms. Accommodations are listed in the law, so teachers can't say anymore, no, you can't have a reader or a scribe or anything else. It is going to be law as of tomorrow. So yeah, we've got a sample there of a breakdown of the law, but these are the discussions that have to be had this week, because it's not just now about a law that can protect us, but businesses, the society, organizations need to understand, because we all need to know what we have to do to make sure that we are following the law, the letter and the spirit of the law.
Almost shifting cultural norms.
It is.
Because we are so used to things being we think is accessible for everybody. And then when we find a different abled person that does not have the same access, we feel weird about it, but then we don't actively do anything about it either.
And so this is the week to talk about it, right? It might make you feel weird and uncomfortable because you don't know. And it's okay, because we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
But now is the time to learn.
Yeah.
And we all need to learn. You know, how about transportation and getting around? So these are the conversations we have to have. Those with severe disabilities who are locked in, are they getting the services that they need? Are the caregivers providing what they should? I mean, you hear stories, and BAPTA on Thursday has a panel about the plight of persons with disabilities in Belize, and you will hear stories about people who might take away their crutches so that they can't move, or move their wheelchair so they're trapped there. I mean, these are sad things that are happening in our country, and we need to be aware. If we want to make a difference and make sure that everyone is equitably treated, we need to learn, and we need to have these conversations, as uncomfortable as it might make us feel.
How does the disabilities desk tie into all of this? Because I feel like we're not necessarily touching on what they do. I know they don't have a representative here, but how do they fit in?
Mr. Marshall is a lead in this group, Ministry of Human Development, Families and Indigenous Peoples Affairs. He's been working very heavily, again, with organizing the National Special Olympics Games on Friday, which will be at Marion Jones, and they have a health forum. They also have a discussion, an online discussion on Saturday. But Mr. Marshall was the lead for the disability bill. That started with a conference, 2-3 years ago, and then took a life of its own. There were consultations, and so of course his minister, Honorable Dolores Balderomas Garcia, was a strong proponent and made sure that we took on task. But the groundwork was largely done by CEO Leal and Mr. Marshall Nunes. And so they're the ones that are going to be organizing and working tomorrow to make sure the bill is signed into law by the Governor General. And that alone, I went to a Caribbean Disability Forum in Grenada a couple months ago. And it was announced then that we have this bill, and we are the only country in the Caribbean that has done this so swiftly, and we're getting it done. And so this is something that that the minister, that Marshall, and everyone really, they need a huge round of applause to getting it to this point. The next point, of course, is the plan for implementation. Because we just don't want a law that will sit there on the shelf and get dusty. We need to make sure that there's a plan for implementation. And they've already put together a task force to work on this with a lot of different ministries and CSOs to make sure that we are going to address this and make sure that it happens.
That's often the concern, because more often than not, we pass laws, they come into effect, but they're not necessarily followed up on, they're not enforced. There's not enough public awareness around laws and how laws benefit and impact society and what have you.
So this week, the Ministry of Education are doing our Unity Bracelet pop-up parties again. And the idea is that we're going to go out into the community, into some schools, and have everyone make these Unity bracelets that they can share. But while this is happening, we are going to be sharing the breakdown of the law. We have a PowerPoint, and we want to talk to people and educate people. I think sometimes what happens is, yes, we don't do enough education, but I also think that we have to take some of the onus. Governments, whichever political party, whichever government, whichever country, I mean, they want the best, but they have a lot of different priorities. I think it's on us as the community to make sure we keep applying that pressure to make sure there is that implementation, that it isn't just, okay, great, and it's a fabulous, wonderful check mark to say we have the law. But I think it'll be on the same CSOs, the same organizations, the public, to keep asking and saying what's happening and where are we going, and do we have the disability registry? Is the commission set up yet? What is happening in education in terms of special education? These are the conversations we have to have.
That was going to be my next question, because I'm very curious to see how it is going to be implemented in the classroom. And I'm not just talking about training teachers in special ed, but a classroom of 25 is already too big for one student that has autism.
Yes.
So how do we maneuver a student being registered in a class of 25 with one teacher and has to be put in that classroom? That one teacher has to have the training.
Where you gone to school?
Why?
I'm just curious, because 25 sounds fabulous to me. But a majority
that's
of these things in the city
right?
is you're looking at 30, 32,
Right.
35
Okay, so how,
in a
okay,
classroom.
well then that even amps
Right,
up
that's what I'm saying,
that
25.
amps up the anxiety. And so how do then we maneuver that
Exactly,
classroom
and-
size? Are we hiring more teachers?
Well, I mean, again, the conversation, because in the city especially, we're going to have classrooms at 30, 32, 33 students. And it's not just one with autism. I've been to some where there are 3 or 4 in a classroom. And the teachers understandably are overwhelmed. And we can train, and we are training to try and help, but they do need more support. I think the bill puts us in a really great time to start talking about a special education and inclusive education policy.
Agreed.
And we have been working with Caribbean Development Bank to create a policy framework and strategy. And that was just approved by CARICOM the end of October. And our minister completely supported the document. And so what's going to happen now is January, we've got to do our own consultations on that. Because in terms of that, we have to start thinking about paraprofessionals, about resource teachers that can help with these things. But unless it becomes a policy and in our education rules and it's written down in black and white, we can't guarantee that it's going to happen across the country. And so this has to be the first step. And I get it. I had a parent message me over the weekend saying her child's in a special ed classroom, but they're only going for a short period of the day because of the number of kids to the number of teachers. And this is the way the teacher is doing a fabulous job. But this is the way she can do intense intervention with the child. But she feels her child is now ready for more. And the only way she can see this happening is if she pays for a parapro.
Right.
And again, I mean, according to the letter of even the education rules right now, that's not the spirit of it. She shouldn't have to. But until we get this in writing, until we can do that, and these conversations are happening at all levels of the ministry. But until we can get this, we can't guarantee that those teachers who have 2, 3 kids with developmental delays or behavioral issues or whatever in the classroom are getting the support and are able to balance our neurotypical with our neurodivergent children. So January we'll start doing consultations across, because the policy framework was done complete collaboration looking at the Belize system, but we now have to make sure we completely adopt it and that everybody's ready for it here. So that's the process that now has to take place.
Let's segue, perhaps digress even a bit. Now, you're a parent who has a child who's autistic. Share with us, perhaps from a personal point of view, how beneficial this entire framework that's to be implemented is for you as a parent.
It's actually emotional, because every parent, even when you come graduation time, you guys have showcased stories of those that graduate who are valedictorian, like Alyssa last year who is blind. You know, we've had some of these stories, and they're token stories. They're not the average of what's happening there. And even these stories, for every one of these success stories, there's a parent who has pushed and fought and had such a hard time getting through the system and ensuring that their child gets what they need. It is not easy for a parent to go through this. I get what the teachers are going through, and I know that the large number of kids, and it's hard, but for a parent who's trying to navigate and learn themselves, it is extremely difficult. And while there are parents like me who are absolutely impatient and want something now, it's this celebrating our new dawn. I feel like we are at the break of some real culture system change, not just a token, not just a band-aid, but we are on the brink of making some real changes so that my son's not going to benefit from this, but there are going to be a lot of kids who will get into it, where parents are going to feel comfortable to openly tell the teacher, my child is dyslexic, so they know exactly what they need to do. They're not going to feel they need to hide it or push it down or anything else. It's going to be something, and hopefully in the not far future, but more in the current future, like right near, thank you, near future, that they're going to be comfortable having these conversations, knowing that the minute they say this, the minute they say this is what my child has, this is the struggles that he's having, that there will be support and recognition and acceptance and inclusion, where they can have an equitable place to start with the other kids and have that opportunity to go as far as they want to in the education system.
I'm glad you painted that picture, because there is still the stigma, and not just with parents but with other children as well. You know, kids will say the truth, and they will tell you exactly what they see, and they're not sure how to voice it properly, or they're not
because
trying.
We're not voicing it. We're not talking about
they're listening to us. So how does this now all fit into ensuring that our babies are also supporting as well? Because you need a friend. When you are different and everybody's being mean to you, that makes it 10 times worse.
It is. You know how many of our kids are autistic teens who are in high school, who are doing well academically, are really struggling socially because of that, because they have them friends. A parent told me the other day, oh, but my kid goes to this school and they know that this child, because they've gone up from kinder all the way up, and they know that he's special and whatever. And I wanted to look at the parent, and I didn't, but I want to look at the parent and say, have you ever invited them over for a birthday party? You know that they're there. They might be a little bit nicer and kinder because they grew up together, but how truly included are they? You know, not just, oh, that's a special kid, we treat him nice, but do we invite him over for movies? Do we invite them over to play video games? Do we do this sort of thing? And I don't know what her answer would have been if I'd asked, to be perfectly honest. It might have been that. But we do have a lot of these kids that are, and the bottom line is we have to start talking. Right? The kids don't know unless we demonstrate. If we know the kid is special, but we're not going to address it, we're not going to talk about it, we're not going to say this, they will learn from that, and they'll be like,
be dismissed, just as dismissive.
And be just as dismissive. They will not include until we do this. We as adults, as the teachers, as the examples, have to have these conversations and show this. It might take parents the first time to say, wait, have you invited this one? You're bringing 4 kids over, bring one more to play video games. Why haven't you? Maybe it only takes that one time. Then the child will be like, hey, this is cool. And, you know, we can see that. But there's so many of us as parents who've kids went through life never being invited to a birthday party, or never coming. I stopped throwing parties for Mateo because of that. I remember throwing this big party, had to blow up this and blow up that, and one child showed up. You know, it's hard. So we have to have these conversations.
And these different abilities are a wide range of you know, different neurodivergent special abilities. I personally wanted to ask about training for the general public, because I would love to learn sign. You know, I would love to learn to read Braille, because I remember my mom having a blind student and she had to take it upon herself. But you know, it's hard to learn a new skill as an adult, or I mean even as a teenager. So how are we going to incorporate training for the general public?
That's a really good question. Trying to get the interest, right, of people who actually want to learn this. This is a challenge. Autism Belize is running the paraprofessional course right now in Independence, and we have a great turnout, but they're teachers and parents. We were kind of hoping for young high school students who might be looking for a job. We ran it twice this summer as well in Belize City, and it was the same thing. I think we had maybe 5 or 6 who were there looking for a job and trying to figure out maybe this could be a career path, but the majority were the teachers and this thing. So how do we get that interest? Even in April, Autism Belize asks companies to invite us in to speak about this thing. And we do. Usually in April, we'll get anywhere between 10 and 20 companies to invite us. And that's great. But how do we spark that? And I think what we've got to look at are our high schools. We have community service mandates for basically all the high schools across the country. And if any of you have a high school student, you know that there are a few of them that actually do the community service. A lot of them go to the auntie or the ma or somebody to sign it. If there is a way that we could tap into that those hours and start exposing them, having them volunteer to spend time or whatever, because that's how we spark the interest. When you talk to someone who works in special ed, who's a speech therapist, who's whatever, you ask them why. A lot of them will say, I had a sister, brother, uncle, or I went to a church group and I spent time with someone who's physically disabled, and so I wanted to learn more. I think the genuine thing to get to is how do we spark their interest, and that's going to be exposure.
Yeah.
That's going to have to be that way.
So it's Disability Awareness Week. The bill is being made into law tomorrow. Can we view it anywhere?
Yes, you can go to the Inclusion Corner on 501 Academy and click it and download it there to read. We'll be putting up the shortened version, the condensed version on the 501 Academy Inclusion Corner later today. This one that's being printed and handed out at pop-up shops. So whenever we have you might see us in a health or at a bus station. I think we got a tax department. There's some offices and stuff. We'll be doing these pop-up things to talk about the bill as well. I just want to quickly touch on some activities that are happening. So we have the FAQs for Autism Belize. A Ministry of Education Special Ed unit is doing training on Wednesday on IEPs, individual education programs, because this is going to have to be a regular thing with the new law. On Thursdays, BAPTA's Plight for Persons with Disabilities. So you can go on their Facebook page to figure out how to get the link to join in on that. Friday's a huge day. Inspiration Center, because we all get used to their artwork and their calendars. They have their launch for their artwork at 10 at the Inspiration Center. So I hope you guys support, because that's a big, and that's fabulous. It's all the kids with disabilities and their art. So that's a really great thing. At 10 o'clock on that same day, UNICEF is launching their Uniquely Wired. I'm really excited to see this, because they're writing stories based on kids with disabilities, youth with disabilities, and making it really creative. So I can't wait to see what the final product of that is, and that'll be on Friday. And then Friday, of course, is the National Special Olympics Games at Marion Jones. There'll be a health forum there as well. And then Saturday, BAPTA has their launch of their opening of their activity centers at the Samuel Haynes building. And the Special Olympics Belize is also going to have a forum at 6 p.m. that night. And then Camp Sequanza, if you've never heard about them, you need to look them up. They have a fully accessible park area in Benke with swings for wheelchairs and all these other activities and stuff, and they provide regular stuff so our kids can go and have a great time. And they're doing a family day from 9 to 12 on Saturday as well. So a lot of organizations are trying to do things, and if there's any way you can support, whether you know of someone with a disability or not, try to take part, take some time to learn, especially you business owners, managers, whatever. Take a look at the law. There are going to be ramifications for all of us, and we need to be prepared. And we need to figure it out. Yes, you need to be prepared.
Thank you, Christy, for joining us. And we are going to be abreast of all of the activities that are happening this week, and I'm pretty sure we're probably going to be covering the signing of that bill tomorrow. So thank you so much for joining us. We are going to take our final break, and when we come back, it's straight to wrap. Don't go away.